this right here today is the second anniversary of the Laura Shepherd Show. September 9th, 2 years ago, we did the first show. That's right. Something's going to happen and it could be good. Something's going to happen and it could be good. Something's going to happen and it could be good. Something's going to happen like we knew it would. Whoa, yeah, well, things will change and leaves will fall and it will rain. We're transformed before your eyes. No time for chasing. Why? Whoa, you never know just how life is gonna go. So you jump in your boat and then you row, row, row. Jump in your boat and row, row, row. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen like we knew it would. I'm gonna give you some advice. Whoa, yeah, you gotta aim high and go for your pie in the sky. Go ahead now, trust yourself. Everything will right itself. Whoa, yeah, well, life's a stream, so go ahead now, follow your dream. Jump in your boat and row, row, row. Jump in your boat and row, row, row. Here we go. Sing it from home. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen like we knew it would. All right, so here I am, still in the Coromandel in New Zealand, going for the second anniversary show. For the first anniversary, we got everybody together and put on a big show, but it was just too hard to get all them Gulfport people over here in Coromandel. So we're just going to move on, but I have the pleasure of inviting my friend Louie. Louie, come to the stage. Louie to join me. Now, Louie, you are an American. Come with me. So, although we don't have everybody who's ever been on the show here today, we have Louie here. Can I stick this behind your guitar?
Yeah, how's it work?
I don't know. I realized I'm getting really good at this hooking on to microphones. Don't you worry.
Oh, good.
Louie.
Laura, it's been a while.
It's been a while. Louie, you're a kindergarten teacher.
I teach kindergarten. I do a few different things.
You teach kindergarten?
Yeah. That's
okay.
Affirmative.
And so you play songs?
Now, people don't know this, but I really didn't play much. But I've known Laura for a long time. You know her from Gulfport, but I've known you here. Mm-hmm. And so Laura's always been playing. And then one time we showed up and we worked out a few songs, didn't we?
Yeah.
Well, you got me a chord or two or something. I just got stuck into it. So yeah, I do. It's about 2 years now I've been playing a little bit. And I've had lots of help from my friends down in Napier.
Yeah. So what made you decide to pick up the guitar as an adult? I mean, because if you didn't start when you were 6, you'll never be any good. I started when I was 40, mind you. Okay, carry on.
Yeah, that's true. No, I really had an awakening in a sense when you're working with children. I don't think you should be teaching them music from an iPod. Mm-hmm. You know, I think you should be teaching them music from your voice or from an instrument, and you have to initiate some of your own will to make it happen rather than relying on something electronic, particularly for younger children, so that they understand they have the capacity to make meaning and create their own universe rather than relying on an object that's exterior to themselves. So they need to see an adult. Children learn from imitation. They don't learn from saying, "Hey, you should try that." They don't work like that. They learn from seeing adults and learning that they too can have a go. And so that's my biggest mission. If I'm teaching Kenny with the kids, if I'm teaching guitar, I don't really teach guitar. We just sit down and play music, and if they want to have a go, they can have a go. And if they want to play the drums or the shakers, they can have a go. What's the funniest thing to me is I had a neighbor who, I think he played on Phoenix Foundation, traveled the world. I didn't even know it at the time. And he's since retired from that, and he does his own band. Anyway, I didn't know they were starting a band up. I'm going to segue here. Anyway, they started a little band up, and we were on the street down in Napier, and I said, "Hey, why don't you come on down? We're having open mic night, and maybe you can support us." And we went down there, and I watched his little street band that were just my neighbors who didn't really play much either at the time, but he got them all lined up, and he was jumping on the stage. It was the best music I'd seen in ages, and it was so fresh. And what I could see was that we're not actually that different than kids. Kids like to have a theater piece, and they like to set up a show, and they like to sell tickets, and they like to just get up and perform. And we do that every day as children. We can show up in the kindergarten, and we can have a piece of paper on the easel, and we can paint anything. It doesn't have to be anything. But if you get an adult in there and say, hey, why don't you paint something? They usually go, oh my God, I don't know, what should I paint? Or if you say, hey, can you play something? Oh, I don't play an instrument. And if you said that to the child, he'd say, well, I'll play the guitar. And consequently, there's not much pressure for me to perform. But what I'm saying is those children are not much different than a musician on the stage. When we look at musicians on the stage, I think as passive observers who aren't musicians, we see these glorified monuments of people playing a music and think, oh, how could I ever do that? But really, since my teaching with children, what I see is just kids who are wanting to have this play. And all they've done is they've extended themselves into a deeper and deeper arena of play. And they're just playing with each other, having a go with their music. And it's a bit more structured. But a lot of people get into outfits. You got your little outfit.
I like an outfit.
You know,
yeah. Do y'all like my new outfit?
I don't know. Who's
I bought
purple?
Who's
purple?
Put your outfit on.
You got to have like...
No, we match up.
So you need to have like a little outfit. You got to get your
yeah.
synergy on. And then all of a sudden, that's really important for the kids to have an outfit. Or sometimes they don't get into that. But so it's this play that's happening, and it's theater, and it's music, and it's interaction. And that form of play is when the real learning starts. It doesn't... A lot of people think that learning happens when you sit them down and say, well, we're doing 1, 2, 3s today. That learning is so but banal. It's really so low on the totem pole of learning. The real learning for children is interaction and play. And I think it's getting harder and harder to create environments where they can interact. And even at a kindergarten, you struggle to create those tiny moments because we're just on a little bit of it's a minor interruption. This is a live performance.
This is live. See, we just roll with the punches.
Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, it's hard to create those moments where they can interact and have that space. But it's fun. We do it every day at a kindergarten, and the kids bring that every day. And so I'm going to play you a little song that was taught to me by the lovely Kindergarten Association.
All right, give it a go.
I'll give it a go. Let me just warm it up here because
warm it up.
I'm not practiced. You'll see some musicians on today. Okay. Mr. Clickety Cane, he plays a silly game. All the kids in the street, they like to do the same. Wash your face with orange juice.
Wash your face with orange juice.
Comb your hair with a toothbrush.
Comb your hair with a toothbrush.
Brush your teeth with bubble gum.
Brush your teeth with bubble gum.
Mend the fence with sticky tape.
Mend the fence with sticky tape.
Fry an egg on a slippery dip.
Fry an egg on a slippery dip.
Belly flop on a pizza.
Belly flop on a pizza.
Mr. Clickety Cane, he plays a silly game. All the kids in the street, they like to do the same.
Oh my God, that was fun. I need to go back to kindergarten.
Yeah.
Belly flop on a pizza.
So-
Nobody does that.
Yeah, we've had you there. You've been there.
Yeah, I've been there.
So,
Nick,
yeah, that's kind of the gist.
Now, what kind of school do you teach at? Let's talk about that just for 1 minute.
It's called Napier Kindergartens, and the Kindergarten Association in New Zealand was a really fantastic non-for-profit trust sort of entity that existed. It was started by, ages ago. New Zealand was one of the first countries to have women vote, and consequently there was also a strong movement in early childhood, and they created the Free Kindergarten Association across New Zealand, and it was all about educating children for free at an early age, not an early age, but giving kids who are around 3.5 to 4 to 5 a space to come for a half a day. And there's various philosophies. It was mostly based on Froebel's philosophy.
On who?
Froebel, his pedagogy. So a lot of free play.
Pedagogy? What does pedagogy mean?
It's really your philosophy on education. How you want to teach, or how you believe children learn.
So this fellow, give me his name again?
Froebel.
Froebel's pedagogy?
Pedagogy of free, lots of free play. And so that's what it's based on. And yeah, so these kindergartens exist all over New Zealand, and they all kind of are the same. And they were public entities that were, basically created by different communities. And so they've existed. So the one I'm in has been around since 1976, but in Napier there's others that are much older. And consequently the environment's changed. Right now there's a lot of corporate entities that have come into the market, and now you have this free market idea where we're going to somehow compete for children, and each child represents so many dollars for that ECE center. And yeah, I don't know that the free market economy is necessarily a great answer for education. I think there are times when we need to maybe have to think about what's best for the child. And so consequently, there's a lot of people who are struggling. They want to raise their child, but at the same time, they got to work, they got to pay the bills. And you got 2-year-olds, 1-year-olds, young and younger kids coming to these spaces. And the question that I always have is what are the child's rights? Does the child have any rights? And we always talk about my right, and it's one thing to have this idea of rights, but I was listening to another guy somewhere, he was talking about virtues, and we don't talk about virtues. But what is the child's right? Does he have a right to be raised by his mom or his dad or a grandma? Or if we reverse the situation, what does a virtuous parent or guardian seek to achieve with the child? Is it virtuous to raise your child up until a certain point and then engage them in an early childhood service? So these are real complex issues, because immediately everyone thinks you're judging them. And it's not about judging, but it is about having a conversation and trying to figure out some of these pathways forward. Because as kindergarten teachers, we grow the most brain than any other teacher.
So you're saying the child's brain grows the most during kindergarten? Yeah,
we grow the most brain matter. So if you want to look at a teacher and say, how much, if we're going to be objective and say, well, how much gray matter do you grow? High school's very little. Primary is not that much, but kindergarten teachers grow the most gray matter. So in a sense, we're in charge of the most fundamental development for the rest of the life. And we place very little value on those first years. In fact, if I was to ask you, I've got $30,000 and you can spend that money however you want on your child, and you can spend it wherever you want. You can send them to a nice high school, you can save it up for a university, you can do whatever you want. 9 times out of 10, most families are going to save it for a university. And they're going to say, well, that's going to give them the most value. He or she is then going to go on to earn the most potential or have the best life by going to a great university. But the studies show that if you spend that money up front, 9 times out of 10, those children are going to go on to have a better life as far as earning potential, et cetera, et cetera. We tend to measure things in earning potential. It's a bit sad. I know we're on the, anyway, we're not preaching to the, we're preaching to the converted, I'm sure, on this channel.
Well,
but
no, but it is interesting that you'd be better off investing your $30,000 in kindergarten than college. And that was something that we wouldn't, it seems a little bit not quite as...
Yeah, it's kind of back to front. And so there's a lot of great people in New Zealand right now doing that. Nathan Wallace, he does some really fantastic presentations. And, there's some really good educators that are out there. But that's probably my biggest challenge is how do we maintain sort of integrity as a teacher when we're teaching younger and younger children and the dynamics changing. And I think we still do a great job, don't get me wrong. But it's a question that we need to ask ourselves, because as these kids go out into the world, what attachments do they have? They're essentially going to be looking after us, and do they have any attachments to the mom or dad or to their grandparents, or are these attachments pretty minimal? And everyone's like wondering why there's more learning disorders, or however you want to articulate it. And it's, if you work in the industry, it's not that hard to figure out why. It's not some sort of magic science that you need to study. It's pretty clear. So I'm always an advocate for more family time. I'm always an advocate for starting your child later. You don't, you know, in America it's a bit different. Here they start the child at 5. So there's a few nuances across the world that are different, but I guess from a kindergarten point of view, my biggest message is it's best for kids to be kids. And the idea of sort of hotboxing their intelligence is, it's a fallacy in my mind. And I think there's a lot of good studies out there to say the same. So yeah, if you got a kid, just enjoy your time with them, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist on the guitar to have some fun.
Now, let me ask you something. Now, okay, so you took up the guitar later in life, and you had a little young teenage son.
Yeah.
What did he think about? Was he embarrassed that you were trying to learn how to play the guitar? Or did he think, go Dad, or?
No, he likes it. He'll join me. They sometimes join me. I think he played Wheels on the Bus for his friends, and they knew some really good songs. And like, oh, turn that off, man. But I
Wheels on the Bus, go for it. Play Wheels on the Bus. Because you know what? Like, all songs count. You guys in the back, sing with us. Here we go. Everybody, sing along.
Wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round all day long. The doors on the bus go open and shut, open and shut, open and shut. The wheels on the bus go open and shut all round. Now we got some other ones we can throw on there for fun.
Okay.
The ballet dancer goes twirl, 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 twirl. The ballet dancer goes twirl, twirl, twirl all night long.
Oh, the babies! The babies on the bus go wow, 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 wow.
The babies on the bus go wow, wow, wow all night. So some people say all around the town, and then sometimes I say all day long. And you know what? I probably get it wrong.
It doesn't matter.
But it doesn't matter. So
but the thing on it is, like, you could sing that song with your family without the guitar.
Yeah.
Wheels on the bus go round and round.
Yeah.
Swish, swish, swish.
Wipers on the bus, swish, swishers.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. And then if you got like 30 kids sitting with you, they all want to say, you say, well, what's the next one? And they'll say, and they know the ones like the wipers, the doors. And then every now and then you get a real wild one that says, the dinosaur. And you're like, what?
The dinosaur?
You're like, what? The dinosaur? And so you try and make something up on the spot. And so immediately that kid is seeing that, hey, you can make a song up. It's not all written down in stone. And so how do we carry that learning on through their life, to create lifelong learners? And how do we engage the primary schooling and the high school to re-engage all that creativity? Because by the time we're an adult, we've sort of forgotten that it's okay to pick up the guitar. And I mean, what are we playing, Laura? We're playing D and A7. And then the hardest thing for me was like strumming. It was like, and then you kind of get this country thing going. And I don't know if you're like me, I'm very self-conscious, and I probably haven't been looking at the camera enough. But I'd see musicians and they'd be stomping their feet or they'd be rocking. I'm like, oh, why are they doing that, man? I don't, can I do that? I don't know if I can do that. But as soon as you start swaying or moving your body, it's all about timing. I never appreciated that. It's not actually the look. I always thought it was like a look, like I gotta jam out. Yeah, no, man, it's not that. It's the timing. Otherwise, you can really lose your timing. So it's funny when you learn something new, it's another language, and it allows you to climb up a mountain and view your life from some other space, or view the world from another space, and then you're able to be like, oh, I get it. They bob, they move, they do that kind of quirk, so they're keeping time, and they got to use their body to keep time because it's too complicated, maybe in the head. It's easier to. So all this movement is retracking the brain. It's creating pathways, and all that happens just through crawling. I mean, that's happening through crawling. You're learning timing. No one would even think that. No one would even think about balance and timing and all that through crawling. It's like, oh. So when people always ask me, well, what do you teach? It's like, well, we teach quite a lot.
Crawling.
Timing. We're teaching timing, movement, and spatial awareness, and all that sort of stuff that happens. Mathematics. I mean, how much goes into that? And so when kids hear a song like that, they're learning about timing as well. They're learning about call and response, So brush your teeth with orange juice, and then they answer back, brush your
Brush
teeth.
your teeth with orange juice.
So there's this idea of call and response and timing and rhythm, and so they're getting the idea of rhythm. And all those things don't have to be synced up right away. It's just a matter of opening the door so that they can see, oh, okay, they're not thinking, oh, I'm learning, I'm on the 6th step to learning music now. It doesn't work like that. They're more enjoying it and seeing you do it, and it's going into them, and they'll be picking more of that up as time goes on, but it needs to be in their life. So anyway.
Well, Louis, thank you for stopping by and playing a few songs. I know Louis's got to get on the road because he's got to drive back to Napier today.
Yep.
And I really appreciate you taking time out to stand up in front of people and just profess that, darn it, you can do it.
Yeah, you can do
it. You entertained me today, and we can all have some fun.
Yeah, enjoy your kids. What else? Have fun.
Have fun.
Don't forget to dress up.
Don't forget to dress up.
You got my mic?
I got your mic.
Right.
Louis, we're going to see you in Napier one day.
All the best for everyone stateside.
Yep. Here we are. You can always learn more. That's what I say.
Ciao.
What I find interesting is that I'm up at the Driving Creek Railway, and I'm the artist in residence, and one of the things I do is I pot in a public space. And people get off the trains, and the little kids come in, and I say, would you like to play with clay? And they go, yes. And the parents all go, oh, yes, they do want to. And I'll pull out a block of clay for the kids and hand it to them. But then I also go to hand a block of clay to the adults. And the parents always go, oh, no, 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 no. And I'm like, oh, yes, yes, yes. And then I shame them. I go, oh, you're going to make your kid do it, but you're afraid to try? And then they do it too. And that's this thing. It's like when they're kids, you hand them a block of clay, they'll just try it. And they don't make anything particularly special. And we smoosh it up when they leave. But the adults, they're afraid to make a bad thing or an ugly thing or a not great piece of art. And it's like, get over yourselves, people. Smoothie. Just play with the clay. So I'm always doing a bunch of peer pressure to make the adults do it too. All right, well, I really appreciate Louis. He's got to go off on a run, but we made him talk. Now, we got Emily. Emily to the stage. Emily, would you like to sit down or stand up? Will you? Yeah, I'm going to loom over you. You sit. Here, I'm going to give this on. Hi, Emily.
Hello.
Now, Emily and I, we've all met just recently. Emily, what do you do?
I work for a non-for-profit conservation group up in the Coromandel, and we do lots of pest management. I'm learning
management.
that conservation work in New Zealand, you have to kill a lot of things.
I thought we were conserving things. Wow. Now, wait, you came from Canada.
Yes.
And how did you end up with this conservation job? Is that something you always wanted to do, or?
Yeah. You feel like you have a calling in life.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm called to sort of look after the land.
Oh.
Maybe you can
And if that includes killing things, like, oh yeah, so what did you do when you found out that all this looking after involved killing? I don't know if you all saw the show when Saskia was on, but she had brought a rat, that we had a dead rat on the show because what is it? What are we killing? We're not killing lions and tigers and bears, folks. What are we killing?
Rats, mice, possums, stoats, weasels.
All of whom were imported into this country and are wrecking havoc on the bird life and the plant life.
The possums, this is the perfect climate for them, and there's lots for them to eat.
And when for those of you in the States, the possums here do not have bare rat-like tails. They have a big floofy tail like a nice cat. So when you see it going across the road, you're like, oh, what's that cute little floofer? And it turns out it's a bad old possum. Now, if anybody has anything they need to say to us, please feel free to type it in. We've got somebody.
Yeah, there's lots. I'm sort of realizing it's coming back to people. Where there's an innate sort of knowledge in all of us on how to live in harmony with the environment.
You think there is?
I think there is.
Well, if we all have it in us, why are we such a mess?
Yeah, we're really losing touch with that. Just being able to stop and listen. All the answers are there, but we just need to learn how to listen to the land Do you feel like she's crying out, or
The
that
land is
she's...
crying out. You know, I have been a gardener for years, and I, plant things and I work with the yard, and I'm always like, well, I love those people that can talk to the spirits and plants. Like, just ask them and they will tell you. And I'm like, so I go trotting up to a plant and I'm like, dear rose, how can I be more beautiful? And the rose remains silent. And I think to myself, come on, I thought you were more airy-fairy than that. So I talk to them, and I guess on some level I listen, but I can't, I don't have a clear voice that I assign to the land. I get inspiration, and I try and follow my inspirations as long as they feel good. But I am still waiting to get, it's like, I'd do the right thing if I knew what it was that I wanted. God, please tell me, do I want to go left or right?
Yeah.
So how do you know when you're hearing a real clear voice
Ooh.
from nature? Do you hear a voice of nature?
I don't, but I have learnt a lot about it. I've read a lot of research, and my studies of university has always painted that picture for me.
The university studies painted pictures
Painted
of the
a
earth being...
picture of just the imbalance, the complete imbalance that we're taking way too much and we're not giving back. I think recently there was an image released or something that we're actually consuming like a world and a half worth of resources.
Yeah.
And that's
We don't have that.
That's not in balance with.
Now, so you went to university.
Yeah.
And did you finish your degree?
Yep.
What is your degree?
Bachelor of Science.
A Bachelor of Science. She's a Bachelor of
I'm a
Science.
scientist.
And then you came from Canada to New Zealand. Why did you come here?
Yeah. For the nature.
Yeah, but how did you know about it? I mean, like, what made you come here?
I think I knew it was like a what would you say, a young country. So just like within the last 100 years, or and just sort of not a lot of people and lots of green space and
Rats and possums and stoats.
But that's like compared to going for a bushwalk in Canada and the Pacific Northwest, you're thinking about bears and wolves and cougars. But when you're going in for a bushwalk in New Zealand, it's just like so peaceful. You hear the birds and lots of different native birds, and you're not ever worried that a bear is gonna come and eat you, or you don't have to hang your food up in the tree. Yeah.
Okay, so did you get a job before you came, or did you arrive?
No, I just sort of came.
And did you apply for a work visa, or did you come as a tourist?
I came as a working holiday.
Okay,
And
working
then
holiday.
I was a student last year,
Uh-huh.
and now I'm on a work visa for the next 2.5 years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so you got this job with MEG,
Yeah.
which stands for?
Moihau Environment Group.
And Moihau
is the tallest peak in the northern peninsula of Coromandel.
Which is close to here. How long is it? Moihau's not far, an hour up the road.
Yeah,
a little
an
more?
hour up the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long has the Moihau Environmental Group been in?
Ooh, that's a good question.
A while.
I should know this. Yeah.
Years and years. I mean, 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah,
A long time.
they've been doing lots of work. They have a lot of volunteers, a lot of dedicated, people that really want to make a difference for the like conservation or like rehabilitating the natural bush and the native species. And
yeah, we go out and they have volunteer events, ginger bashing, and if you want to get involved. Ginger bashing means pulling up these ornamental gingers that spread everywhere. And although they do have pretty flowers, they're not good for the native environment, so they go out and cut them down.
Yeah.
And so, so it's like now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, or you can volunteer to be a trapper or a ginger basher. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
But there's some tree planters.
yes, that's
Okay.
a tree planting.
Because this conservation is starting to look like
Yeah.
annihilation.
I know.
Isn't
I
that
know.
horrid?
Yeah, I was thinking like with my path, with my journey, maybe leaning towards more like Louis when he's, you're influencing, you can influence kids, and like, why don't they teach, like I didn't learn about environmental issues until I was in university. like all throughout.
Well, do you think that because when you
school.
were growing up, they were less important?
Yeah, maybe
I mean,
they
they were always
hadn't-
important, but they were less. It was kind of like weird and
Yeah.
alternative to worry about the environment.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of like peace hippies.
Yeah.
Hey, old peace hippie. Well, what are you worried about the environment for? But I think it's getting to be much more
Urgent
mainstream, urgent,
Yeah.
mainstream, urgent. Oh my God. And so, is your job a 40-hour week job or full time or
It's
part
quite
time?
it's quite flexible, but yeah, it's full time.
Full-time
Monday to
job?
Friday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. in the
And
bush.
so, and is there a lot of paperwork involved, or just killing
No,
things?
just hiking around. Lots of. It's quite. I feel quite honored and to be and getting to know this area and this land from the bush and seeing
we call
things.
we call the woods the bush.
The bush.
What do you call it in Canada? Is it the,
The
bush?
forest.
The forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go out into the woods.
We go into the woods.
Here they go to the bush. In Canada,
The
you all go
bush.
to the forest. Go on to- we shall all meet somewhere where there's the one tree. Golly. So this
Yeah.
job, hiking around, doing pest management, that's you're going to do that for a year or so.
Yeah, they've got. It's quite because
And
it's
who funds
non-profit.
it? Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
non-profit. Who funds it?
The regional council has a big input. The Waikato Regional Council,
Yeah.
and also lotteries. We just got some funding from them.
Ooh, go
increase-
buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
And if you win, give to the Meg.
to the conservation. Yeah, yeah, it's really rewarding. But yeah, like I said, I think it comes back to the people as well. Like I think that's the place we can make the biggest difference is getting that connection back, and I find it quite beautiful with the Maori like mythology, and you know if you have a story connected to like these beings that aren't humans, you know, like
Right. What do you mean by
bush,
that?
like trees,
Like the Maori? Are you saying that the Maori mythology?
yeah, you know, you can have a story about the piwakawaka, the fantail bird, and because you've created that connection with a story and you sort of like have respect for it, then maybe you'll treat it differently. So yeah, that's one route maybe I can go down.
Yeah, I guess educating younger children while they're building all that gray matter to, and then what? Do you have any grand path off into the future of your life, or are you just living for today?
Yeah, living day by day, but definitely it's becoming more clear that it's the people that needs the healing rather than the, you know,
Right, because once the people leave, the land is
yeah,
fine.
the land will be fine. We just have to listen to it, and yeah, I think it's going down a way where we might not be able to live here in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe healing the people. I think I've found a lot of like meditation and listening to like just learning that there's an awareness, you know, there's your thoughts, there's your conversation in your head, but then there's the observer of those thoughts.
Yeah, it's always good to observe what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
And if what you're thinking about does not make you feel good, maybe you should be thinking about daisies. Daisies always make you feel good. So when you're tromping around in the bush, you're by yourself all the time, or with a partner?
Yeah,
Or?
sometimes working in a team. Yeah, get to learn a lot working with other people, with my coworkers. They've been in the job for quite a long time, so.
So if they started out for a year and they're still there, or do you think they meant to be
they've
there
been there
that
for
long?
2 years.
2 years and they're in.
Yeah.
No, I know people who've been trapping on these hills for like a whole generation now.
Yeah.
My friend Ron now, his son Beth, his daughter Beth is working for me. And it's like a whole generation of trapping. But now we were driving back from Colville about a month ago, and we saw a kiwi cross the road. And people, this is big news. There was a kiwi crossing the road, and we about 2:00 in the morning because they're nocturnal.
Right.
So they've done enough work around here that a kiwi could survive.
Yeah.
So that was the big news. I didn't actually see it. The people in the front seat saw it, and they were both from here, and I was the tourist. Anyways,
Yes, that's always good.
have
to
you
hear.
actually seen a kiwi in the wild?
I have seen one on Stewart Island, so that's way bottom of the South Island. And we were just out after dark and walking around the rugby field, and because they're quite blind, I think, so they almost
they
ran into us. But that was pretty cool. It was like a chicken size. I thought they were small.
Oh, pretty big, aren't they?
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else you want to tell the world about you or yourself, or give some encouragement, or what have you learned? You said you were doing some introspecting. What did you introspect?
Contemplation. I think just the biggest thing would be to, I guess you get to create your thoughts. Or
That's the only thing you have control over.
You know, you can create your reality. So if you're sort of, especially in times like these where it can be very overwhelming, but if you think about, I don't know, just take a step back and listen to your intuition and
and that's that thing, listening to your intuition and like, does the earth speak to you and stuff like that. Sometimes it's so, we think it's like, God, the voice from above says go left. But it's so much more subtle.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to figure out, is that intuition like from your higher self, or is that intuition from, because if you're on the wrong road, sometimes you can be influenced by things on the wrong road.
Yeah.
So the discernment.
Yeah.
And what I like to do is when I get an idea, I like to sort of pause and rewind it a little bit and go, where was my brain when I got that idea?
Yeah.
Like, was I all worried and stressed out? And then I got to sell my car. It's like, wait a minute, or was I feeling good and positive? And then, maybe I should sell the car. So when you get an idea, kind of rewind a little bit and watch your mind. You got any good ideas?
I think increasing the human consciousness of the world. If we can all just be a bit more conscious and, that collective.
All right, people, when you see Emily in the world, stop, pause for 1 minute, and be conscious.
Yes.
Do you have anything else you want to say before we get Nick up here?
Yeah. Should we play some?
Yeah, Nick, where are you?
Play
Where's
some
your
music?
guitar? Oh, no, we
Thank
got one
you.
right here. Okay, look, we're going to give Nick the microphone. This is good times here. All right, come stand with us, my dear. We have all just met as a threesome, and we're not. I mean, we're three people summing up, not an actual threesome, just in case there was any confusion out there. Nick, he plays the guitar. Play us a little something on your guitar. And we decided, what's this song called?
I haven't really got a clear idea about what, I call it a raise your head.
A Raise Your Head.
Yeah, after that movie by David Lynch.
You mean Eraserhead? No.
David Lynch.
What's David? I don't know. I'm so...
It's a sort of like a really creepy movie from like the late 70s, early 80s. And David Lynch, of course, went on to greatness. And we all know his work. You know his work.
No,
Twin Peaks.
I am so absolutely media
He's
stupid.
been meditating, I think. He hasn't missed a session for 40 years or something.
What?
He's been meditating.
Oh, I like
for a
his
long
style.
time.
Yeah, that's great. He's an unusual film director, and because he makes furniture for his films and stuff like that as well. But he's always been sort of obsessed with 50s Americana, but also the dark underbelly of American life.
Yeah.
Okay, so is this song about the dark underbelly of American life?
Dark underbelly of New Zealand life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
So
hear it.
It's kind of a it's a narrative song,
Okay.
and it's kind of about people with self-destructive urges. Yeah. So
If that's you, listen closely.
here we go. We've got to get a tempo going.
Okay,
here.
you go. We're going to try along.
yellow mohawk, and it spoke to me. Poking out of a trench coat with cherry red ducks. He said, don't look me in the eye unless you want to die. I panicked and he almost smiled. A deal was cut, an arrangement was made. Raise a head, raise your head on a cold, sunny day. Raise your head and make the pain go away. So I had to go to Skunk's house to pick up the amp. He led me to the lounge. I sank into the couch. Some punks were spotting hash from a Primus stove. It was comical at first, then it took a turn for the worst. Yeah, they started branding each other with primitive drug-fueled designs. I was transfixed, horrified, sinking deeper towards the essence of the pain. I must have nodded off, 'cause someone kicked me in the shin. The sulfur phoenix singing, rise and shine. This is the head, it's a Marshall. You've got to turn up the gain.
Turn up the gain!
Turn up the gain. Turn up the gain. Turn up the gain. On a cold, sunny day. Turn up the gain and make the pain go away. Turn up the gain and make the pain go away.
See how easy it is? Now, are you really that angst-ridden? I mean, it was like, oh my God, they were branding each other, and
Yeah, look, what do they say? Never let the truth get in the way of
a good song.
Of a good song or a good
Okay,
story.
good.
So, but I did see that.
You did see it happen. I did see it happen.
I did see that happen. Yeah.
I don't know what you were doing hanging out with those kind of folks.
Oh, look, it's like it's a throwback to Taranaki, to New Plymouth, and
Is that where you? Wait, where were you? Where did you? Give us your full name.
Nick Chrysler.
Nick Chrysler. Where are you from?
I'm from New Plymouth originally, yeah. But I was just sort of, growing up there was like a strange sort of like punk scene, and some quite heavy people, a lot of bad people doing a lot of bad drugs, stuff like that. And you cross paths with these people, and so you kind of like, stick in your mind later, you'd be like, I'll write a song about that stuff.
I'll write a song about that now.
But I'm also, kind of interested in quite strong visual things.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you write narrative type songs.
Yeah, it's
and
good to
kind
have the descriptions, the Marshall amps, the spotting on the
Yeah.
type of stuff, all the
yeah,
descriptions.
and even the language,
Yeah.
like how it all intersects, like a primus and, primitive kind of ideas.
Yeah, Primus is a brand of stove here in this country.
Yeah, and sort of like primal sort of bad behaviour as well. But it's funny because Louis was talking about kids learning, and they're learning from how they take it on board so much stuff. And I was thinking of my daughter because she started drumming before she could speak when she was about 14 months old.
Oh.
She had a toy drum kit and she worked out how to play it. And she's 14 now, but she can still, she's become a really proficient drummer.
Maybe she wants to be in my band.
But it's funny because it's kind of like, I remember she wrote her first song when she was about 7. And it was really interesting because it was called Rusty Old Eyes, which is a beautiful
Rusty Old Eyes.
a beautiful visual image.
Yeah,
and I was like, man, she's 7 and she's writing in metaphor.
Yeah.
I was like, how's that even possible? I sort of, she played it to me, and she sang it actually a cappella, because at the time she was drumming and she didn't play guitar or anything. And I was like, this kind of reminds me of a Tom Waits song. She kind of goes, I wouldn't know who he is. Like a 7-year-old.
In that gravelly
voice. I'm like, okay, well, okay, I'll play you a bit of that. And put some on, and she goes, I don't like that old guy music. And I was like, oh, your song's a bit like, it's even a bit like, kind of reminds me of Bob Dylan. She goes, I wouldn't know what that is. And I put on The Times They Are Changing on YouTube, and she's watching it. 7-year-old kid, and she hits the space bar, stops it, and she kind of goes, I've seen enough. I'm like, what have you seen enough of? She goes, I get it. He tells a bit of the story, then he sings The Times They Are Changing, and then he tells a bit more of the story. She goes, I've got the pattern down.
Oh.
I was like, okay, right.
Oh, she went writing songs.
Yeah, so funny. And even, I maybe if you do start playing at that real young age, there's no, like you were talking about before, there's no kind of like obstacle, there's no thing in your brain that says you can't do this or that. But it gets annoying because I was talking to her on the phone a week or two ago, and she kind of goes, oh, I've started playing the guitar. I was like, okay, play me something. She plays me some chords and some picking runs, and she goes, and I've worked out how to play this thing, and she's doing another picking thing from some TV show she likes. I'm like, when did you start? Because we're talking on Wednesday.
Yeah.
She goes, I started on Monday.
Yeah, she was on it.
Yeah, I was like,
Well, I love the fact that you love your daughter,
Oh,
and
it's
you're
cute.
like, we get
It's
to
cute.
hear talking
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
world. He wants to tell us about his daughter. You're so
it's-
wonderful.
Yeah, no, just sort of thinking about music, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah.
and how it kind of gestate and all that.
But actually, you're a photographer.
Yeah, mainly worked as a photographer for most of my career, and
What got you into you took pictures for museum? Explain to us exactly your.
yeah, like
Or what you take all kinds of pictures, but what is it that you're really known for?
Yeah.
Really known for?
Probably, yeah, like you say, probably for museum photography.
So that means if there's this cup that's in a museum, what sort of things do we need to know about taking its picture for a museum?
Yeah.
Which is different from someplace else.
You kind of want it's museum photography is all about accuracy of detail and contrast control. Like, it's funny because people are kind of, for so long, they're just like obsessed with cameras.
Yeah.
And cameras are almost like half the equation to me, or even less, because it's so much about light.
Right.
So, how do I put it?
It's all about the light, darling.
well,
Go to the light.
Yeah, well, when you're photographing an object like a painting, a ceramic, or a three-dimensional thing, you want to not blow out your highlights, and you want to not block up your shadows. So I'm getting quite technical.
Yes, but
here.
I mean, isn't that what we all want, or that's more specific to?
It's really critical with photographing objects that, I mean, we all want that.
Yeah.
But most of the time, people aren't even aware that they're doing it.
Right.
And so you really, it's contrast control. Yeah.
And how did you find out that you had a gift for this?
I think I just I started photography way back. We're talking 30 years ago or something. And
With your Polaroid camera? No.
yeah, no, I used everything. I used in those days, of course, everybody shot film. And but with film, yeah, you could shoot Polaroid, you could shoot 35mm, but then you get bigger formats, you get medium format, then you got 4:5, which was called large format, and as you went up the scale, it became more expensive and more difficult to execute as the formats got bigger. And then I started shooting fashion, and I was like, oh, it's just so much better shooting it on medium format film, because I started on 35mm with a Leica, which was like one of the great cameras. But it was, of course, incredibly expensive. People forget the film just cost a ton of money, and so you spend thousands of dollars a year buying film and developing it. Then when digital came in the late 90s, I was like, I want to learn this and use this. And by that stage, I'd gone to Sydney, and I wanted to use really high quality digital. So I got this job working at the State Library of New South Wales, and they trained me in using large format digital, which at that time was like the camera and the lens was probably like $80,000.
Right. So
just
you wanted to learn something, and why did they hire you if you didn't know it?
I'd started working in digital in Auckland in about 97, and at that time, I went to Tech, and because there were some things I wanted to backfill on my photography knowledge, and they had a camera, a Kodak Nikon digital camera, $20,000 for this thing, and it took a 1 megabyte file was what it generated.
Wow.
So
that's a lot of bytes.
It was like
I'm still chewing it.
Yeah, like hardly any bytes.
None.
Like
no bytes.
Like less bytes than you get out of your mobile phone.
And that was the best they had.
That was the best they had.
My mobile phone is better than the best they had.
That's probably like a 10 megapixel.
Oh,
but
10.
the one back then was 1.
1.
Yeah, but so anyway, it's like you couldn't afford the technology yourself.
No.
So I went there, I learned that, and they trained me in photographing stuff. Like I photographed Captain Cook's
but a lot of people...
personal effects.
Ooh, Captain Cook's personal effects.
Yeah, stuff like that.
But I mean, what did you have some sort of innate sort of knack for that, or did you just keep at it, or both?
It's hard to know if you have an innate knack for something, but maybe it's something other people can see rather than you can see yourself. Because I'll kind of, even with people's phone camera photos that they put on Instagram and stuff, I'll be like, that person has an eye, and it doesn't matter who they are or what they do. It's kind of like they just seem to have it. So I don't know. I mean, but it's funny because, you know, we're talking about museum photography and
Yeah.
photographing objects.
Yeah.
But for a very long time, I photographed people, and
Oh.
I think I was good at photographing
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
I was just technically interested in going in. I had a background in art as well, so I was
Yeah.
like, I want to be able to photograph a Picasso to a really high standard, which
Yeah.
is what I eventually did.
Yeah. And yay! I know that's
Yeah.
amazing. You actually photographed a Picasso.
All sorts of stuff like that, Monet's, you know, but just, I mean, I say that because it's almost like the pinnacle
Of course.
of photographing art, because
Yeah.
you've got to.
You got to make it exactly right.
You got to get it exactly right with the colours, and colour is your colour in photography comes from light. So if you have to get very critical light to get accurate colour. You need a good camera as well,
Yeah.
but it's like a combination of those things.
Oh my goodness.
Shit.
That's amazing. And so you, like me, are sort of in New Zealand. We're COVID refugees
We
together.
are.
We live across the hill from one another.
we do.
And we will be excited to see what sort of things, you know, where your life goes, because the direction it was going is no longer.
No,
and now
it's-
here you are on the hill.
I'm excited to be on the hill.
Yeah.
In Coromandel.
Okay.
And I want to photograph the ceramics.
Yes. Well, there's this
Because
place
there's
is
so many
sick with
ceramics here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, they're not, you know, they're being photographed to a certain standard, you know,
Right.
and I'm
Now,
not
do
going
you think? Listen, okay, now, do you think that anybody can tell the difference between a really great photo of a ceramics and a plain one, or do you think you have to have more knowledge to even tell the difference?
Look, it's kind of like, no, I think you can tell.
Yeah, anybody can say,
I
"Oh,
think
that's
you
a
can-
nicer picture."
Yeah, because you know,
But they don't know why or how
Yeah.
you got there.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of like, I mean, we know some basic things about photography. Like, if we wanted to, you know, make this space that we're standing in here more kind of like, if we wanted to concentrate on one object,
Yeah.
we would get rid of all this shit.
Right.
All this clutter.
I mean, all this important stuff.
All this important stuff, we'd get rid of it.
Right, and
And
just
you-
have one thing in the
And
front.
would you have a white wall or
Yeah.
a grey background?
yeah.
And same with, you know, most people know that about photography
Yeah,
now because they look at e-commerce and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
God. Okay, my goodness, all this fun, and now we've run out of time. This is it. Okay, so for all of you people out there who've been watching the Laura Shepherd Show for a couple of years, thank you. Is there something anybody wants to say that's important that you got to share with the world at this moment? All right, well, we're just going to ask Emily behind the counter to push finish. Hey, y'all go to Patreon or Venmo and show your support for this show. Yee-haw. Yes, finish it up. Thank you.